then we will call the meeting to order at 5:32. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. We'll go member Martinez,
Sorry, not quick on the draw, but I'm here.
member Donahue,
Here.
member Medina,
Here.
and we know member Bowders is absent. Member Collins,
Present.
member Donaldson,
Here.
member Van Geffen,
Here.
member, I believe Chagola, and member Solis.
Here.
Okay, so Pedro, do you see any public comments tonight? Or did we get any speaker cards?
I did not receive any speaker cards, and I do not see any members of the public. If you would like to raise your hand, I know we have some presenter for the solar presentation, so I'm not sure if I recognize all of them, but if there's a member of public and you have make a public comment, please raise your hand. I don't see any, so.
Okay, so not seeing any public comments, we will move on to item number 4, the approval of the May 6th regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. That was seconded by member Donahue and, motion by member Donahue and seconded by member Medina. Can we have a roll call?
Yes. Member Martinez?
Aye.
Member Donahue?
Aye.
Member Medina?
Aye.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Donaldson?
Aye.
Member Van Geffen?
I was not present, so I will abstain.
And member Solis?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now we will be moving on to our first informational item. Agenda item. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think it would probably be in the best interest for our committee to read the Assembly bill regarding virtual meetings. Would it be possible for you to read that section into the
Yes.
record?
Absolutely. Let's see here. That would be the directions for using Zoom portion.
I think after the adjournment 10, it says pursuant to California Assembly Bill 361, and I can
Okay,
bring it.
got it. Okay, here we go. Pursuant to California Assembly Bill 361, the city is authorized to hold public meetings via teleconferencing and to make public meetings accessible electronically to all members of the public seeking to participate in the meeting during a declared state of emergency. As such, committee members will be participating in the meeting via teleconference, and the city will provide various options for the public to participate in the conduct of the meeting remotely until the state of emergency is lifted by the governor. Public comments for agenda items can be submitted online via our new online speaker card at www.emeryville.org/advisory-bodies. Written comments can also be submitted by email to the committee secretary, who is
Me.
Pedro Jimenez at p.jimenez@emeryville.org. If you would like to support, oppose, or otherwise comment on an upcoming agenda item, please send in your comments prior to the meeting. If you will be unable to attend in person until the current state of emergency is lifted by the governor. Good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then moving on to item 5.1, the solar presentation update.
Yes. Gabe, do we have you?
I Hi, I'd just like to do a quick intro. This is Jody, the O&M director for the district. Back in May, we signed on with Sizerco to do an initial feasibility analysis of the solar project for bringing solar to the ECCL campus. We did get approval to move forward with what was the investment grade audit phase, which is what we have been going through the last several months here. And so we're at the point now where we've identified a project scope. We have an idea of the financials. And so we invited the team from Sizerco here this evening to give a presentation to you all. So I have Gabriel Johnson from Sizerco, who's been kind of leading the charge for the team here. He's going to go ahead and share with you guys all a presentation on where we are now with the project. So go ahead, Gabe, when you're ready.
Thank you, Jody. Can I share screen, or should I is Pedro, are you leading the presentation? Should I do next slide, or go ahead and take?
Go ahead and tell me next slide. I'll take care of that for you.
Okay, sounds good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabe Johnson. I'm an account manager for Sizerco Energy Solutions. And Sizerco Energy Solutions, go ahead, next slide, please. Sizerco Energy Solutions is a turnkey energy services provider located out of the Bay Area. We work with a lot of school districts throughout the Bay Area to help them identify, develop, and implement comprehensive energy conservation and power generation measures. And Sizerco Energy Solutions is in the energy arm of Sizerco Incorporated, which is a Bay Area-based company that has been doing business here in the Bay Area with local school districts for over 40 years. So tonight I'm joined by a couple other people with Sizerco Energy Solutions. We have Scott Meinzen, our general manager. We have Najib Elzine, our operations manager. And we also have Jason Smith, who's our lead project development manager for solar, renewable technologies, battery storage, et cetera. So my intention today is to present some information to kind of take you through the project, give you an overview of what's involved, some of the numbers, et cetera. And then when the presentation's over, I'll open it up for questions and answers. And hopefully we can provide the information you're looking for and answer all of your questions. So without further ado, next slide, please, Pedro. Okay, so the project really consists of three different components. There's the energy efficiency component, which is any kind of measures that reduce electricity or natural gas. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail about what those measures are. A large portion of the project is the solar PV system. We'll talk about that. There's also a battery storage component and an EV charging component. And then there's a grant program through the CPUC that is available to all school districts that are in investor-owned utility cover or territory. So PG as a PG&E customer, and the Emory School District is eligible for the California AB 841 grant program. So I'll describe a little bit about what that looks like and what that opportunity means for the school district. So in addition to those scopes of work that we've been focusing on, we've also brought forward several different funding options for the program. There's a program through PG&E called on-bill financing. It's specifically intended to fund energy efficiency measures only. So we've been talking with the district about utilizing that program. There's, for the solar side, there's power purchase agreement, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Power purchase model is basically third-party ownership, doesn't require any capital to build or maintain the systems, and electricity is sold back to the user at typically at a fixed electricity rate, oftentimes at or below what the current electricity rates are that they're paying through PG&E. Of course, there's district capital, which is always an option to pay for projects. And then there's the grant funding through the AB 841 CalShape program. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little background on the timeline in terms of where we started and how we got here. It was late in 2020 when we began conversations with the school district to talk about the opportunities and what the project might look like. And then in about halfway through this year, in June of 2021, as Jody said, the district approved Sizerco to move forward with a detailed energy audit. We often call that an IGA, investment grade audit. And so for the last 5 months, we've been working very closely with Jody and staff to develop scopes of work, costs, savings, capture the opportunities through the AB 841 grant program. And we're about 95% of the way complete with all of those different aspects of the project. Jason and his team are still working to finalize some aspects of the solar PV project, but we're pretty far along. And so time now to get everyone up to speed with where we're at. Next slide, please. This is just another look at the overall timeline. You can see the "You Are Here" button over there on the right. Basically, we've gone through several iterative steps to collect information, bring subcontractors through the facilities, identify locations for solar PV, identify energy conservation measures. We've been having periodic project development meetings with Jody and his staff weekly for the last several months. And now we're at a point where we're literally, we've had a few meetings already. I know some of you at the school district side have already seen this presentation. So we're sharing the information about the project so that our ultimate goal is that we answer everyone's questions and get to a point where we can seek approval for the project to move into the implementation phase. And hopefully that'll occur over the next few weeks, possibly into later on into this year. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Next slide, please. Okay, so you can think of the project in really like 3 different buckets. As far as the energy efficiency measures that are involved in the project, there's some HVAC assessments, which is funded primarily through the AB 841 grant program. There's some HVAC rejuvenation measures. There's some LED lighting that's still left within the facilities that we can convert older lighting into LED. Some building envelope sealing and refrigeration controls. So those are all the energy efficiency measures that are involved. We started with a longer list, and through dialogue and working together, we decided that these would be the best measures that would fit for Emory USD. From a capital and safety standpoint, the grant program does fund the installation of CO2 sensors. It's actually required by the CPUC under this program to install CO2 sensors in order to secure the grant funding. So that's part of the scope of this project. That's definitely a safety measure to make sure the CO2 levels stay at safe levels for the students and staff in the classrooms. And then, of course, there's the solar PV, battery storage, and EV charging component of the project. Next slide, please. So this provides a little bit more detail, a breakdown of the different measures that are involved in the project, some of the costs that are involved, and savings and incentives. The yellow measures at the top are measures that are eligible for grant money through the AB 841 program. You can see in the center of the table, that's the price of the measure. And then to the right of that are the eligible external funding sources. So you can see what dollars are eligible for PG&E's OBF. There's the SGIP incentive, which is self-generation incentive protocol for battery storage. And then there's the AB 841 grant funding. So the measures in orange in the middle are the energy efficiency measures. And then the measures in green at the bottom are the renewable or solar PV and battery storage measures. So overall, the project has a total value of slightly under $4.5 million. We're calculating that it's going to save about $215,000 per year starting in year 1. And then you can see there's some anticipated incentives, whether it be the grant through AB 841, the SGIP incentive, or the potential funding that could come from PG&E's on-bill finance program. If the district were to leverage all 3 of these programs and secure these funds, then the net out-of-pocket cost for the project would be about $3.9 million. Next slide, please. This is a picture of some of the measures that our project development manager found when they were out kind of exploring the facilities to see what opportunities exist. Just a couple pictures of the lighting on the right. The upper left is, you can see the light coming in underneath the door. That's what we categorize as a building envelope measure. So by installing sweeps and seals, door sweeps and seals, kind of plugging the holes within the building, what that does is it keeps the conditioned air inside the spaces so that that air isn't exiting. If the district is paying to condition the air and it's slipping out through holes or underneath the doors, then that's basically money that's going out the door. So by stopping that, we can save money from a utility standpoint. And then in the lower left-hand corner, there's some condensation buildup underneath the refrigerator door. So by installing refrigeration controls, excuse me, by installing refrigeration controls, we can prevent these types of situations, give Jody and his team a more proactive opportunity to monitor the conditions in the cooling spaces, the refrigeration spaces, so that if certain temperature set points fall out of range, then he can address those issues. Next slide, please. So this slide shows a rendering of the solar PV panels. So you can see the box around the campus there. And each of these rectangles represents a different solar PV system that's been pre-designed and identified by Jason and his team. The boxes here in the middle with the green perimeter color, those are carport structures, and then the rectangles with the red perimeter are rooftop mounted solar PV. So I'm sure there'll be some questions about solar PV after the presentation's over, but we wanted to show you from a bird's eye what the system or what the project looks like and where each of the solar PV systems would be located across the campuses. Next slide, please. One of the questions when we started working with the district and talking about the concept of reducing energy first through energy efficiency and then producing energy with solar PV was that is it possible for the district to achieve what's called zero net energy? And we do believe it is possible. The energy conservation measures that are shown in this or included in this project will reduce the overall use of the facilities by about 12%. And then the solar PV systems have been sized to offset the remaining load, which will be about 88%. And so the question we were asked not too long ago was, if the district decided not to do the energy conservation measures, would it still be possible to achieve zero net energy? The answer at this point is we don't think it's likely. We've pretty much maxed out all of the available locations across the campus to install solar PV. There's really not any other locations where panels can be installed within code, et cetera. So it would take a further analysis to kind of dig deeper into whether that's potentially possible, because there are higher wattage panels and things like that. But we've done pretty much everything we can to try to max out as much solar as we can. And the good news is that combined with the energy conservation measures, the district will achieve zero net energy status. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot of the overall financials of the project. As I mentioned, it's slightly under $4.5 million in total value. The red numbers are external funding sources, whether it be OBF, incentives, or grants. Then you have the net cost. And then, as I mentioned before, slightly over $200,000 calculated for utility savings, and then another $5,000 in operational savings. Operational savings is things like when you buy new equipment, you don't have to pay to fix old equipment or purchase parts for failing equipment, things like that. We tend to use a pretty conservative approach when it comes to operational savings, because sometimes that's difficult to quantify. So the reality of it is we would expect the district to realize more operational savings than what's shown, but just from a conservative standpoint, we came up with about $5,000. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the one of the things we're working on right now is trying to understand how the project will ultimately be funded. There's different options to pay for the project. The solar PV has a large portion of the cost of the project. And so we wanted to run a little comparison between what would it look like to purchase the system with cash versus using a power purchase agreement. At the time the presentation was put together, we made some assumptions based on historical information in terms of what we might expect from the PPA providers. You can see a rate, an escalation, and a term there. And then there's a cost for O&M, which is the ongoing cost to maintain a solar PV and a storage system. So the values up in the box on top are some of the estimated inputs that we would have anticipated. Using those inputs and plugging them into a cash flow, you can see the difference between the two models. Obviously, under a PPA, there's no upfront capital or ongoing costs. The main difference between the two is when the system is purchased outright with cash, then 100% of the electricity generated equals cost savings to the district. So by purchasing the system outright, the district realizes all of the energy savings. Under a PPA, electricity is still purchased, but it's purchased from that third-party provider, and oftentimes it's at or slightly below what current costs are. So in this situation, you can see that a capital purchase over a 25-year lifespan would become cash flow positive around net or year 10, and it would net about $3.5 million savings. Under a PPA, it would be a little less than half of that. I should mention that Jason and his team have been going through an exercise lately to reach out to several different PPA providers to share the project with them to get more accurate inputs. What we're experiencing at this point is the rates that are being offered to the district are higher than 16 cents a kilowatt hour. I heard from Jason that they're in the low 20 cents range right now, but there's some things that we still need to do to negotiate terms related to the PPA. So that's kind of still a work in process. But I think the bottom line is that as that rate goes up from the PPA provider, the difference between a capital purchase and a PPA really widens, because as that rate goes up, the savings in the bottom right shown for the PPA would ultimately go down. So, and those are conditions of the cost increases from the pandemic. There's a lot of different conditions that Jason can talk about as to why the PPA rates are higher now than they have been in the past. So I think looking at this comparison here shows that when cash is available, a capital purchase would provide a greater long-term benefit in terms of overall savings. Next slide, please. Just a summary here of the different benefits that the project will bring to the user. None of this is a surprise to anyone. There's obviously a fantastic environmental impact by implementing energy reduction and solar PV, carbon reduction, greenhouse gas reduction, significant utility and operational cost savings. And one of the other benefits with implementing the energy efficiency measures is it provides a future capital cost avoidance. So by installing those measures now, it avoids having to pay for them later when they fail, kind of the concept of getting new equipment. And if that could be funded with external funding sources, then that's something that we wanted to take a close look at. Obviously demonstrates environmental and fiscal responsibility to the stakeholders in the community. So just kind of an overview of the good things that the project brings to the district. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the last slide. This is just a look at some of the steps we've taken recently. I've presented this information a couple times already to the facility committee for the district. I presented it to the board of directors. I think that was last week. I don't know, time's kind of flying these days. And then here we are today presenting it to the rest of the folks from the city. And our hope is that we can answer all the questions that come about these different meetings, make sure everyone has a clear understanding of what's involved in the project, make sure folks feel comfortable with what the project involves. And then the next steps ultimately from our perspective would be to understand how the project is going to be funded And then we would move towards having a design build implementation contract approved by the board of directors so that we could move into the construction phase and roll up our sleeves and start building this project for the district. One thing I should mention is that there is an intention to try to get as much work done during the upcoming summertime in 2022. And so we are pushing rather aggressively to try to get into an implementation phase solely so we can get through DSA approval and some of the requirements that are needed, some more engineering pre-design from a structural standpoint, et cetera, to try to get as much work as we possibly can done over the summertime to make as least impact as possible to the students and staff while they're going to school. So that's our goal as a company and a partner of the district. And that concludes the presentation. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up and open it now for any questions from the group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you very much. Let's see.
Can you
who
see
has
the
questions
raised
for the
hands?
committee? I can see some raised hands. Member Donahue.
Does the calculations include the heating and cooling costs for the buildings and the swimming pool?
The energy efficiency measures do include electricity and natural gas savings. I believe there are, we did look at the pool. Jody, do you recall what you and Josh came up with when you were looking at any measures at the pool? Our project development manager, Josh, isn't with us tonight, but I think Jody might recall.
I don't think there was really any available on the gas side that were out, available for any on-bill finance funding or anything like that. So we didn't. The pool was not looked into as terms of. It's more of a gas user, right? More and less of an electricity user. So it was. It wasn't looked at as closely in as far as reducing gas. We were just looking at ways to reduce electricity. But all the other electric uses was accounted for and taken into account during all the analysis. Yes.
But including the gas heating, I suppose it has gas heating in all the buildings.
It does as well, yeah. So their HVAC and pool are both heated by gas. So anything that's heated by gas, but the focus of the project was not to reduce our gas consumption per se. It's more to reduce the electricity consumption that the solar would then help to offset there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I had one last question about. It looks like PG&E is going to change their attitude about buying back power. Have you taken this into account that they're going to have some new grid charges? And what if this project is caught in the middle of a change of PG&E's attitude about buying back power? And there was increased grid charges. Have you calculated anything of that sort?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. It's called net energy metering is the change that's being proposed. I'd like to turn that over to Jason Smith, our solar development manager, because he's very much in tune with those changes that are coming out. Jason?
John, you work for the CPUC, I think, right? So you might be able to better answer the question, but
I'm not actually allowed to comment on that being an actual party to the NIM proceedings.
You are not.
Yeah.
Sweet. Then I can say almost whatever I want. No, I'm just kidding. So Scott, we have modeled it both ways as an exercise for ourselves to be able to see what the fallout would be, and it's not great. So it does say, however, that NEM 2.0, if your application through PG&E is accepted, which is a 10-day period of time when they review your application for all the administrative errors that one could make and kick it back at you. If you find your way through that period, you will be grandfathered into NEM 2.0. So the goal here would be to move forward to the extent possible to get the interconnection application submitted so that we can assure the 2.0 opportunity for the project rather than being subject to 3.0.
Yeah, it just like what, my question would really be like, what are those numbers, you know?
I don't have the exercise we did right off the top of my head, but if you think about what the
Okay.
policy is, the export, the net energy metering export that would otherwise be equal at the time of export, not including non-bypassable charges, would be cut in effectively half. So they're
Cool.
pushing the opportunity to be able to increase batteries, store and discharge to take care of the consumption later in the day. So
Yeah,
Scott, this is Scott Mines. I'm the general manager of Seismic Energy Solutions. I'll add to Jason's comment, and John is biting his pen over there, so I just want to make sure that we're articulating this well. We're currently in a time when an application to be submitted to have your interconnection application under what's called NEM 2.0 is still open. So if the district moves forward with this project and an application is submitted, the economic benefits that are currently in place that were just modeled are available to the district. We don't know when, but we have heard that it's soon, and John's going to bite his pen again. But we've heard that it's soon. There will be a change that goes to NEM 3.0, and what we're hearing is that the economic benefit will drop by 50%. So those economic benefits that you just saw, cut them in half, that would be the economic benefit after NEM 3.0. I mean, roughly speaking. John, don't sue me for slander.
but is your outline projecting you to get in under the wire, so to speak?
The numbers
Yes.
that were just displayed by Gabe model the current NEM 2.0 economic benefit to the district. Yes.
Including pulling the trigger on this would be the decision about it? Or is it when it's completed and then the power is changed over? How does PG&E look at that?
No, it's based on the date that your application is submitted, which happens
Accepted.
before, or accepted. Thank you, Jason. Accepted. That's before it's
Okay.
built.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Good question, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go to Member Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. Member Donahue actually just asked all of my questions, so I will have comments on this issue, but yeah, we're not done talking about net energy metering. Thank you.
Okay, Member Van Geffen.
By way of background, for those that are interested in the NIM proceedings, a decade ago, California wanted everyone to have solar. Fast forward 10 years, only those that were wealthy enough to acquire solar got it, which means those that could afford their electrical bills were getting off the grid. The result being that those that have to use the grid, their costs go up because the cost of delivering the energy doesn't change just because people are getting off the grid. And so the commission's considering whether or not to create higher prices or default minimal rates, all that good stuff to basically cover the costs involved of delivering the energy. But again, I can't get into that. My question was for Jody. I know that a lot of the teachers had concerns over the HVAC system, and we were talking about the HVAC rejuvenation part of that. And I was wondering if what we're doing is addressing any of the concerns that they had regarding airflow and all that, just because, it'd be nice to have something to tell them.
No, I hear you there. The look at the HVAC portion of and how it relates to this project is going to be separate from addressing like ventilation concerns in the classroom. So the way I'm looking at it is that's going to be addressing that's going to be another project that's going to need to take place. We're going to need to install new equipment, look at all kinds of things, and have everything engineered. What we're focusing on here as part of this project in regards to HVAC is pretty much as it relates to CO2 sensors, right? So we have them here at our district. They just don't, the ones we have just don't send automatic alerts out, right? So we're looking at, okay, let's upgrade the CO2 sensors. and then there's the HVAC rejuvenation, and that's kind of, and I think Gabe could also speak more to the scope of that, but that's kind of optimizing, looking at engineering ways we can optimize the system to save energy, like by boiler. There's additives you could put in your boiler that reduce friction in the pipes that could, help reduce costs and things like that. But just to answer your question, the work we're doing here is not going to address like the outstanding HVAC concerns that have been brought forth by the teaching staff.
Okay, second last question for Gabriel. Have you guys researched any programs for potential loans that would cover the capital investment if we went with that over the power purchase agreement? Are there programs available to schools to cover that kind of thing at super low interest rates?
The PG&E's on-bill financing program is a 0% loan program that funds efficiency only. If the district wanted to include solar PV, we could look at a very traditional tax exempt municipal lease. We're working with some other customers. Scott's pretty involved in sourcing some financing options with the city that we're working with, where we saw rates of about 2.5% with a 15-year term. I think Scott's also involved with a project in Southern California that, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, it was about 2.3%, something like that over 17 years. So there are some options out there, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see here. I'm scrolling through to look for any more hands. I don't think I see any. And I also don't see any hands from the public. Do we have any? Okay, no, I don't see it. Do we have any questions from the public? Is anyone seeing any, or Pedro, are you getting any via our special system?
Yeah, I have not received any by email, and I don't see any hands or comments.
Okay, so now we will move into further discussion.
Oh, I see a raised hand by Member Martinez.
Right, Member Martinez wants to get in here to this discussion, right?
Okay.
Here we go. Go ahead.
What can I say? I love solar. I think staff has done a really good job of vetting these plans. I am following the CPUC proceedings, at least for residential and commercial. I wasn't sure how they impacted school. So thank you, Member Donahue, for asking those very astute questions. But I do want to encourage the school board members that when this comes before you, that change between NEM 2.0 and 3.0 could be drastic and severe. So there is a window of opportunity that will close in terms of our savings. I am a little disappointed that wasn't transparent in the presentation, and that we had to tease it out of the presentation. But thankfully, we have a member of the CPUC staff on board, and we have other knowledgeable members of this board who would question that. But I think this is a very positive thing. I think we've been looking at solar for a long time. I really want to thank Jody and the team for putting this together. And I hope we can bring it home. And I think on-bill financing at 0% interest is a wise way to go.
Okay, thank you, Member Martinez. And let's see, I see another hand there with Member Donahue.
Well, this is a question for the city manager. Is this, does the school district get 100% of the decision-making about this?
Vice Mayor, this is their facility. The city is a lessee. And what you have before you is the presentation of the district's analysis of how it would expend, as I'm understanding it, its capital funds. So yes, it's a decision for the district.
Okay, thank you.
But we do welcome your ideas and thoughts on it.
Here's an idea. We should paint our swimming pool black. Not only does it look cool when you swim in it, but the heat loss is, much less for whatever that's worth.
I have another, continuing on with that thought, can we clarify, does the city have no participation in this, in the financing of this? Is that what I'm understanding? And only in the, as it results to the future spending?
Is that a question for Dr. Scott?
No, I'm sorry, for you.
We haven't been asked to participate in any of the funding of this installation on the district's property. That's correct.
Got it. I just wasn't sure if it was part of a former agreement about the O&M spending, et cetera. Okay. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Let me see here. I've seen any more hands. I don't see any.
If Dora's run any numbers about how these costs would affect our budget? I know she's unfortunately unable to join us today, but I didn't know if that's been addressed.
I believe so, and also perhaps that is an item to be, a question to be tabled for our future meeting and or brought to the facilities committee.
It looked like
we can get back to you on that.
Had something to.
Okay, let me see there.
Thank you, Member Van Gap. And I was just going to add that she has started to run preliminary numbers, but we still need additional information. So we don't have anything concrete at this time, but that is on our one of the tasks to complete.
Okay, well, this was an information only item. So seeing no further hands, I think we are ready to say thank you again, Sizer Co., for another fantastic presentation. And we will be hearing from you again soon and talking with you again very soon. So thank you again.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Okay, now we are on to item 5.2, another informational item, which is an update on third-party rental revenue given by the city.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Sarmento, who's our recreation supervisor, who oversees facility rentals and aquatics and community events. And she has information regarding our projections and how rentals are doing, kind of during COVID and I guess almost post-pandemic, we could say.
Thank you, Pedro, and all of the committee members. So our current brought-in revenue in the last 4 months.
I'm so sorry, Rebecca, could you maybe adjust your volume or where your speaker is?
Thank you.
Your microphone?
Yep, hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, how's that? Is that a little bit better?
Roughly the exact same, to be entirely honest.
Thank you.
But I'll just turn my volume up. Thank you.
Let me get a little closer. Maybe that might help a little bit too.
Difficulties, I tell you. And I've tested it before. Okay, how about now? Is that a little bit better, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that feedback. So current revenue for the last 4 months is $84,872. And we are confident that we're going to reach the $150,000 that is currently budgeted to bring in. We've had a lot of success with bringing back our church rentals. That was one of the first rentals we did bring back into the ECCL. We have 2 current church rentals. And we are unfortunately losing one of those rentals at the end of the month. Their church got renovated and it's now ready to move back in. And so we have been reaching out to all of our other past rentals to try and fill that space and fill that area. But we have, since the pandemic has been starting to lift up, we're starting to see a large increase of parties. We have birthday parties, a 65th birthday party. We're having weddings and baptism celebrations and first communion. So we are definitely working on our marketing at this point, where we're going to start pushing out our spaces, our building A, which is our premier multi-purpose room that's got a kitchen and the bathroom. So, and start finding some more programs to put in there and some more rentals. We've recently started looking at the gym and starting to, we have Monday through Thursday evenings, we are hosting adult sports in the gym, Monday through Thursday, with volleyball, futsal, and basketball. And we are looking to open the gym back up to some open gym hours for the public in the year. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Great, thanks. Yes, thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Let's see here. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands here. Do we have any questions from the public?
I have not received anything and do not see anybody on our participant list.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion, anyone? Sorry, it's a little, I'm slow here scrolling through participants. Okay, so it looks like there are none. So thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And we will move on now to some action items. Action item 6.1, change 2.8, presiding officers, rules of procedure of the Emeryville Center for Community Life Governance Committee.
Yes. So we have I believe in our previous meeting, we've had discussions that to avoid not having a chair for the meeting, making a change to the presiding officer section where the city presiding officer, the mayor, shall preside at the May meeting, and the EUSD presiding officer, the president, shall preside at the November meeting. Is the change that is being recommended out of the rules and procedures. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions. It is on your packet on page 5. And it's page 207 of the procedures.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? No, looks like we do not. Sorry, do I need to ask for public? Are there any public comments on this item?
I have not received anything. Let me double check my email real quick. Nope, I have not received anything and do not see anybody on our participant list.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion here, can I have a motion to approve this change?
Moved.
I'll second.
That was moved by member Martinez and seconded by I'm going to go with Brenda, Miss Collins, President Collins. Does that mean?
That's correct.
Roll call, please. Yes.
I did hear somebody else's voice, but I'm not sure whose it was.
I'm sorry, is it Mayor Martinez? Excuse me.
I know Mayor Martinez motion, but it was 2 of us, but I know I was one voice, so we can go with it.
All right, can I have roll call, please?
Yes. Member Martinez?
Aye.
Member Donahue?
Aye.
Member Medina?
Aye.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Donaldson?
Aye.
Member Van Geffen?
Yes.
And Member Solis?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. The ayes have it. We now will be moving on to item 6.2, approval of the O&M budget fiscal year 21-22, mid-year adjustments and capital.
So I can, would you like me to display the?
The spreadsheet? Yes.
Yes.
Please. Yes, please, Pedro. Thank you. So I'll be stepping in to present the budget tonight for in Dora's absence. So. Okay. So as you can see, the overall shares cost for I'll start at the top here. From the original budget, the city share is looking at around 367,000. The district share is looking at 899,000, almost 900, and that's all based on the projected amount of third-party rentals of 150,000, bringing the total budget for this first interim at 1.4 million. And then moving down here, classified, I'll just kind of go through each line item. Classified salaries through classified substitutes, nothing's been changed since the last budget. Minimal increase on the admin salaries. Let's see, the first noticeable change here you'll see in material costs. Those were due to additional, you see the jump up from last year or from the original budget, but this was due to some unforeseen costs in the, as far as some IT, AV equipment that was, sorry, not IT, but AV equipment that was needed to be purchased, along with some of the extra costs that come along with filtration in the time of COVID for like air purifiers, extra, filtration for the units themselves and things like that. Moving down here, you'll see a reduction or an increase in the gas. Where am I looking? Sorry, everything kind of stays the same down here. So we get to the property insurance, and you'll see a decrease of about 20K there. And that was due to, it's my understanding, that was due to not as many claims. This is kind of due to the pandemic and that there weren't as many claims filed because of that. And so it triggered a decrease in insurance costs all around. And then moving down some more, we'll see gas here went from 86 down to 78. That was part in thinking that during last year we did some work to optimize the ventilation. At the time when we did that, we were running all the equipment at the time. All the HVAC equipment was running at full capacity because we had our learning hubs that were happening over the spring, but we didn't have the load in the building space that would, kind of, if you don't have enough bodies in there, you're gonna spend a lot more money to heat. And so we were looking at that thinking, okay, well, we're gonna make a projection here saying we're gonna be less than we were last year. Somewhere still kind of, we're still gonna need a little more than we did last year. But anyhow, that's why you see a reduction there in the gas. But everything else kind of has stayed the same. Water, you'll see, has jumped up from the 21, 22 from the pandemic. So we're projected back to where we normally were there. And then kind of going through down here, there was a P bid. I think the amount on that varies per year. So it reduced a little bit from what was originally budgeted. And then there was an operation budget adjustment to the contracted services line item as well. So you'll see a reduction of about from going from 1.43 down to 1.47 million for the O&M budget. And I'd like to ask if there's any questions at this point.
Thank you, Jody. Do we have any questions? I am not seeing any.
You know what? I've just got one.
Mhm.
Not a huge question. May I?
Yes, Mayor Martinez.
Some time ago, I received an email from the district about the devious licks phenomenon on TikTok, and I was just wondering if those repairs to our restrooms were timely and if they were a big impact to the budget.
Luckily, no. The impacts, I mean, while discouraging and all of that, they didn't have that great of a fiscal impact. Luckily, there was no significant damage, no like broken fixtures and things like that. So a lot of it was mainly cosmetic and was a matter of changing, you know, soap dispensers and things like that. So there wasn't a big expense that was caused by that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see any questions from the public? I don't think we see any questions from the public. Any further discussion, anyone? If not, can I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Okay, thank you. We've been moved by Mayor Martinez and seconded by Member Donahue. Roll call, please.
Okay, Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Donahue,
Aye.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Collins,
Yes.
Member Donaldson,
Yes.
Member Van Geffen.
Yes.
And
Member
actually-
Solis?
Yes, also member Chagoya is here.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, yeah.
All
Chagoya,
right.
yeah, I'm Regina, yes.
Yeah, Member Chagoya,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. The ayes have it. We will move on now to item number 7, an update from the Administrative Committee.
I don't have any updates on my end. Just want to give thanks again to Jody Clark and the team for putting together the solar information. There's been a lot of heavy lifting, so I appreciate your work with that. Thank you.
And I second Dr. Scott. Most of our conversations, I feel like for the last several months have been all about solar. So Jody, thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Okay, great, thank you. Now on item number 8, future agenda items. Do any members of the committee have any future agenda items? You can just shout it out as I'm scrolling through here.
So I don't know if this is a future agenda item. Maybe Mayor Martinez, you can jump in there, or someone that might be a little more versed as to where in the city would it be appropriate to place a couple of youth that live in Emeryville so that we can have youth voice on a city level?
I don't believe we have age limits on any of our committees, do we, Madam City Manager? So youth are welcome to apply for any of our advisory committees for the city. I think it's a great idea. I'm actually meeting with a civics class on Friday of next week, and I am glad to promote that idea, and I'll send them a link.
Okay, fantastic. If there's anything I can support that idea, please let me know.
Yeah, we would welcome more applications to all of our committees. It's good to have young folks involved. I'm glad to meet our new school board members, and that we need to build that bench. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Any other items from anyone? Okay, not seeing any. Are there any announcements or member comments from any of our members?
Well, I have a quick announcement. I just wanted to congratulate the city of Emeryville for your new member that will be joining the council, Courtney Welsh. Congratulations to the city council and to Courtney and the job I think you all together will do moving forward.
Thank you, Board President.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add? Doesn't appear to be so. With that,
I have one more. We
yes.
can keep clapping for Ashante Smith, who Alameda County Office of Education has listed in a news release last week as Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to Ashanti Smith, Emory Unified School District teacher.
Congratulations. Thank you, President Collins, for that. Okay, well, with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 6:33.